Presented by the all-new 2016 Honda Pilot, proud partner and official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Welcome to beautiful Fenway Park. It's game 2 of this 3-game series against the Boston Red Sox. The Blue Jays need to bounce back after an 11-4 drubbing at the hands of the Red Sox here yesterday. John Gibbons' ball club playing with a lot of confidence, and there you have the ability to erase the memories of that game. Let's take a look at the lineup for John Gibbons' ball clubs tonight. Josh Donaldson, another big game yesterday, and a 3-hit game, including his 37th home run of the season. And he has worn out left-handed pitching, and that's what he's going to deal with tonight. Blue Jays as a team are 19-12 against left-handed starters. Jose Bautista here at Fenway Park. He's played 54 career games, and he's hit 21 home runs and driven in 48 over that span. Bautista had a single in his first at-bat yesterday, finished up 2 for 4 in the afternoon. They'll take their first look at Henry Owens, a rookie lefty,
who's going to take a look at the best offense in all of baseball. Henry Owens is going to get ready for his 7th career Major League start and his 4th here at home. 2011, he was signed by the Boston Red Sox as a supplemental first-round selection, 3rd pick, 36 overall in the June draft. Henry Owens was one of their best pitching prospects in the minor leagues. Last season, he combined to lead all minor league pitchers in win. He went 17-5 last season with a 294 earned run average. This year at Pawtucket in AAA, he made 21 starts. Not so good. 3-8 with a 316 earned run average, but make no mistake, he's one of their top prospects.
Defensively, a few changes for the Red Sox. Brock Holt is in left field. Mookie Betts and Jackie Bradley Jr. in center and right, respectively. Pablo Sandoval's at third base. Andrew Bogart's at shortstop. Dustin Pedroia back in the lineup. He's missed a lot of time with a hamstring injury. Travis Shaw, the rookie's at first. And behind the plate, another rookie, Blake Swihart, the catcher for Henry Owens.
58 games that Dustin Pedroia missed at second base, including the last 42 with that strained right hamstring. So he will be back in. He also missed 16 games, June 25th through the 16th of July. The heart and soul of this ball club back in the starting lineup.
Came back too early the last time, and he had to go right back on the DL. So Ben Revere steps in. Revere, the leadoff man. He was 1 for 4 in yesterday's game. Here's the first pitch of the game. It's in there for a strike, and we are underway. Ben Revere batting .303 for the season. A home run and 32 RBIs. Look out, that hit him. I hit him right on the hand. It was up and in. He was trying to bail out.
Well, hopefully it just grazed that hand and didn't stick him straight on. Ben Revere's got a lot of movement with his arms, and he drops his bat, and he's got a lot of pre-swing movement in that body, and he just couldn't get the hands out of the way quick enough. That is Mike Frostad, who was out there to take a look at that right hand of Ben Revere. And here comes John Gibbons. One more time, lots of movement. You see he drops his hands, and then he brings it back up, and now he's going to try and get out of the way. And that one looked like he hit him right on the knuckle.
Yeah, right on the top of that knuckle on the ring finger. And hopefully he's going to be okay. He just bailed out of the way. And so many of these hitters nowadays, they expose their hands to those inside pitches, and they're always trying to gain an advantage and dive over that plate, but sometimes it'll cause you problems. So Revere's aboard, and that sets the table for Josh Donaldson, and he has been the bringer of rain in the first inning. Homered here yesterday in the first inning, the 12th first inning home run of the season. Donaldson for the season batting .347 against lefty pitching, as we mentioned, 21 extra base hits. The Blue Jays nest perched up on the green monster.
They want a baseball to put in that nest. Josh Donaldson can certainly do that. 14 RBIs in his last 10 games. Look at those numbers versus the lefties this year. .347.
Changeup gets away from the catcher, and Revere is going to move into scoring position. Donaldson chased the off-speed pitch, Veer really had kind of an awkward slide into the bag at second base.
You know, it was late, and he wasn't able to break his slide with his feet. It looked like that knee jammed up against the bag. One more time, change up in the dirt. It gets away. And watch how late he slides. And the knee actually goes right into the bag. No throw.
He hit that base hard with his right knee. So it's a wild pitch. Veer's in scoring position. Donaldson pulls it. That's a foul ball. Well, I tell you what, that was close to going over the bag. Sandoval fielded the ball in foul territory. Donaldson will get another hack.
Another changeup from Owens. Donaldson is out front. That's Manny Gonzalez, the third base umpire, who calls that one foul.
That would be an interesting one to take a look at. Looked like it crossed over the front edge of that base. But it's 0-2. Donaldson will step in against Owens. Well, he changes gears dramatically, doesn't he? Gets 2 strikes in a situation like this. He was just trying to poke that thing to right.
Yeah, he's going to try and wait as long as he can. I mean, this is the first time that the Blue Jays have had a chance to take a look at Henry Owens. And you can look at all the tape you want, but standing in that batter's box and seeing what that ball looks like, it's a different story. He's going to wait as long as he can just to track that ball.
Henry Owens has had a tough draw in his 7 starts. He's faced 5 former All-Stars, and tonight he'll face his second Cy Young Award winner in R.A. Dickey. Welcome to the big leagues. A ball and 2 strikes, nobody out. Revere at second base. Fouls it off. Well, the Blue Jays, they scored first in yesterday's game, afternoon affair, and then Boston tied it up in the second, and then the Red Sox were off and running.
Yeah, they didn't have an answer for the Red Sox offense in yesterday's ball game. They're hoping to get that tonight.
Donaldson, line drive to left. Hope has it, and Revere has to hold at second. 1 out. That'll bring Jose Bautista to the plate. He loves this ballpark, and over the last 30 games here at Fenway, he's impressed.
Well, he is built for this ballpark, if you ask me. If you try and throw a ball inside, he's so quick. He has hit 13 home runs and driven in a ton of runs. Look at the average at 319 in this ballpark. On the on-base plus the slugging over 1. How many times have we seen Bautista hit a ball out of here? I mean, over the green monster in left field and crash some of those cars that are parked in the parking garage across the street. He's just got tremendous power and plays right for this ballpark.
It's a perfect ballpark for Bautista. This is the ballpark that he's homered the most frequently and on the road. One of 2 ballparks he's hit more home runs in than Fenway Park, Rogers Center, and PNC Park, his home ballpark when he was with the Pirates.
2 home ballparks, and you can see why he's so tough. He's right on top of the plate. Even pitches away, he can go out and hook the ball to left field.
Ball on the strike. Bautista doing a little surveying of Henry Owens to see what he's dealing with. The Blue Jays made some call-ups. Matt Haig has joined the team today, and Haig was the International League Player of the Year for AAA Buffalo, and he saw Owens a lot. So the coaching staff checked in with Matt Haig about his impressions of Owens. He says he just mixes up his pitches an awful lot. Very unpredictable.
Told you about his numbers last year. That was while he was in Double-A for the for the Portland team. Double-A team for the Boston Red Sox, 17-5 with an ERA under 3. This year went to AAA and it wasn't as good. He did have a good ERA, 3.16, but a losing record.
Pedroia keeping an eye on Ben Revere at second base, and Owens took too much time. Bautista asked for time and stepped out of the box.
Well, I doubt pretty much that Ben Revere is going to be stealing here in this situation. Pedroia is checking in on him behind second base, but you're not going to run with the big hitters coming up.
Another good pitch inside. Bautista thought it was off the plate. Big hitters indeed. Bautista, then Edwin Encarnacion. Pedroia can hang out near the bag at second because Bautista's a poor hitter. So he's really not taking himself out of position by keeping an eye on Ben Revere. Three and two to Bautista. Ball four. That's his 89th walk of the season. That's the most in the American League.
First base open, you walk him, and now you got to deal with Encarnacion. Let's take a look at the scouting report for young Henry Owens. Fastball around 90 miles an hour. He throws it 64% of the time. His changeup is his second best pitch, and it's the second most times that he will use it, 18% of the time. Curveball and a slider also. He's been using more of that slider against the breaking ball hitters. He'll go inside against the right-handers, outside to the left-handers. Right now, the Blue Jays are trying to get a feel for what he wants to do.
Well, the more pitches the Jays see here in the first inning, the better idea they're going to have of Henry Owens. They made him throw 16 pitches already. There go the runners, and Swihart has no throw. Boy, you got to be unpredictable, and you're right. I would have thought Blue Jays would be patient, but Revere got a good read, took off for third base. Bautista followed him into second.
You know what they do is they've got a timer, and they take a look at the leg kick, and that timer says that Henry Owens takes a long time to get to home plate. So why not take advantage of that? No chance to get Revere or Bautista on the backside.
Encarnacion chases that off-speed pitch.
And that's what you do. It's Tim Leeper over there at first base with that stopwatch, and he'll click that when he sees Owens move, and then click it again when that ball crosses home plate, just to get a time of how long it takes for that ball to get to the plate.
1.3 to 1.5. That's the green zone. They can run. And that time is from the pitcher's first movement until the ball hits the catcher's glove. They'll have all of those scouting reports pregame, but then Leeper will validate it once they get into the ball game.
Yeah, I'm telling you, he watches. He watches those pitchers, and he tries to pick something up from them to help their base runners, to give them an idea of when they're going home or when they're throwing over towards first base. Those two runners stole that base, both those bases, without a throw.
Ground ball. That's going to score a run. Pedroia from behind second throws Encarnacion out. Ben Revere comes in to score the first run of the ball game, and a double steal pays off dividends early.
Yeah, if not, that's a double play, and the Blue Jays are out of the inning. So the aggressiveness early in the game that caught everybody by surprise.
Blue Jays grounded into 4 double plays yesterday. Actually had a line double play and 3 ground double plays, but Encarnacion picks up the RBI, Edwin's 94th RBI of the season. 1-0 Blue Jays. Troy Tulowitzki. Tulowitzki for the season batting .382 with runners in scoring position. With the Blue Jays over the season long period with Colorado and the Blue Jays, .300. Blue Jays done a terrific job of picking their spots for stolen bases. They've stolen 20 of 23 in the second half of the season. Bounced in the dirt. Bautista very aggressive off third in his secondary lead. Troy Tulowitzki with 68 RBIs for the season. This is his 36th game with the Blue Jays. Boy, he had a good cut at that pitch.
I like that he's being aggressive early in the count. When he first came over to the Blue Jays, it seemed like he was trying to get a lot of information on pitchers. And he was taking a lot of pitches, especially fastballs, right down the middle. Now it looks like he is being a little bit more aggressive, and he's starting to hit the ball a little bit harder. A little bit more solid contact from Tulo.
He lined out twice yesterday, once to the third baseman and once to the second baseman. That resulted in a double play. Hit hard, but right to Pedroia. The Blue Jays jump out on top. They score a run on a ground ball. Double steal pays off. 1-0 Jays as we head to the bottom of the first. R.A. Dickey. His bench coach. Take a look at the lineup for the Red Sox. Top of the order is Mookie Betts. He's hit 15 straight against the Jays. And Dustin Pedroia, Xander Bogaerts. His career numbers against Dickey are impressive. Rookie shortstop, he's just 22 years old. He's got 9 hits in 23 at-bats. 3 doubles, 5 RBIs against the knuckleballer. And then how about Jackie Bradley Jr.? He's got an 8-game hit streak. And look at the numbers. 15 for 26, over 500 with 9 extra base hits. He's really stinging the ball. Had a 4-for-4 game yesterday.
As hot as anybody, I think, in the major leagues. In the lineup tonight, R.A. Dickey's going to have to be very careful with. This is a very hot offensive team. The Red Sox, there are the numbers for Dickey in 28 starts. He evened that record last time out at 10-10 with a complete game against the Cleveland Indians. He is now 7-0 in his last start since the All-Star break. And that, excuse me, Buck, that fewest pitches in a complete game since Roy Halladay had 89 in 2006. It only took him 92 pitches to throw that complete game.
Used his fastball a lot in that game. And he really forced the hitters to swing. And that's really when the knuckleball became that much more effective. Dickey's ahead of Mookie Betts, 0-2. He chops at it. It's a foul ball right at home. Mookie Betts has a career tying hit streak. He has a 13-game hit streak. That is the longest hit streak in the majors active. He also had a 13-gamer back in June. Ground ball. With Pennington has it, and Betts is retired.
The second baseman, number 15, Dustin Pedroia.
Dustin Pedroia has been out of the lineup this July, and the fans are happy to see him back, and nobody's happier than Dustin Pedroia. He hates not playing. Josh Tolle, it's a foul ball off his chest protector.
Especially when you have to miss as many games as Pedroia has missed with that hamstring problem.
Missed 42 games. The second time he was on the disabled list, he initially missed 16 games and had to go back on a DL with the same injury.
He's been out here early the last couple of days, going through the protocol, if you will, trying to get back, running the bases, stopping and starting, and see if that hamstring will hold up. And he is now back into that lineup. That's Torey Lovullo, the manager of the Boston Red Sox.
Pedroia behind 1-2. Pedroia hitting .216 for his career against Dickey. He's got a home run, but he's just 8 for 37 against RA. Another foul ball. Dickey is on the best stretch of pitching since he joined the Blue Jays. He's won 7 straight decisions, and the Blue Jays have gone 9-1 in his last 10 starts since the All-Star break.
7-0 in those last 10 starts for Dickey. 3 no decisions.
Pedroia waves at that knuckler. 2 down quickly here in the first. Defensively, this has really complimented the entire pitching staff, and everybody has worked very well. Revere, Pilar, and Bautista in the outfield. Donaldson starting for the 128th game at third. Tulowitzki and Pennington up the middle. Colabella's at first, and Josh Tolle makes his 12th start behind the plate.
Cliff Pennington has made starts this season in left field, second base, third base, shortstop. He'll get his 7th start at second base for the Blue Jays tonight with the left-hander Owens on the mound. Pennington is veteran. He's not going to be rattled at all in these types of games.
Boy, Dickey's got his good knuckleball early here tonight. Dickey making his 6th career start at Fenway Park. That's popped into the seats. Dickey made 4 relief appearances over the course of his career, but since coming to the Blue Jays, he's made 5 starts here at Boston, 2-2 with a .360 earned run average. And he's averaged 7 innings per start. Ground ball. Donaldson comes after it. Goes on the run. Quick inning for R.A. Dickey. 3 up, 3 down with a strikeout. Blue Jays have a 1-0 lead after 1 at Fenway.
On Sportsnet. Presented by the all-new 2016 Honda Pilot, proud partner and official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Beautiful evening at Fenway Park, and the Blue Jays have a 1-0 lead. Chris Colabello grew up in western Massachusetts in Worcester. Got a lot of family and friends that have come out to support him here in this series. Colabello's had a great season with the Blue Jays. 329, 16 doubles, 13 home runs, and he's driven in 49. Deep drive to left field. That's going to bang off the green monster. Holt will go over and dig it out. Colabello will coast into second with a leadoff double, his 17th double of the season.
Man, he can really hit. And when the Blue Jays are facing a left-hander, he is going to get the start at first base. And every time he gets a start for the Blue Jays, he does something for them to help them win. This time he hammers this ball to left field, and the Blue Jays catch a break where the ball hit off the wall. There's a scoreboard out there. You can see it out there, and the ball hits right on top of it. Bounces straight up, and that's going to make Brock Holt's job a little bit harder as he has to go into the corner now instead of having that ball bounce right back to him. And it'll be another double for the Blue Jays.
It's the first hit of the game for the Jays. They scored a run without benefit of a hit. Kevin Pillar shows bunt. The Red Sox had a couple of sacrifice bunts in the game yesterday, but their manager, Torey Lovullo, didn't really think that was the best move. He said, I think we play for big innings in this ballpark. He said the Red Sox are all about swinging it. Pillar swings and the bat goes flying into the seats. The fan got it and everybody seems to be okay. But Pillar on a hot, muggy night here at Fenway Park lost the grip on his bat.
And I don't think that fan wants to give that one up. Off-speed pitch, see ya. That bat is helicoptering right into the stands. And he's got himself a souvenir.
Everybody seems to be okay, and that's fortunate. Nobody was injured by that bat.
Got himself a bat and some TV time.
Ball on a strike to Kevin Pillar. Inside strike. Owens seems to have more confidence pitching these righties inside than he does out over the plate.
Yeah, look at all the fastballs he has thrown here to the Blue Jays in the first couple of innings. A lot of them right on the inside corner. The Blue Jays are not real sure about Owens, so they're taking it.
Ball bounced out in front of home. So far, Owens hasn't shown the ability to throw that breaking ball for a strike, so that's a pitch you can discount for the time being.
25 pitches in the first inning, just 15 strikes. That's only 60% of the time he is throwing the ball in the strike zone. 14 of those might have been fastballs in that first inning because that's the only thing he's getting over right now.
Kevin Pillar protecting that outside corner.
Well, he has had his problems here at Fenway Park. This could be murder on a left-handed pitcher, especially a young pitcher. His 15 2/3 innings, 20 hits, 15 earned runs, and 6 home runs allowed. You have to learn how to pitch here. You got to throw that fastball inside.
You have to throw the fastball for strikes inside. That's what really makes the difference, and he's thrown some good ones so far. Cliff Pennington, a switch hitter, is on deck. Those 3 starts you mentioned, Seattle, Kansas City, and New York. The Yankees were here on the second, and that's Owens' last start. Pillar pops it in the air. Shallow center field. Colabello is halfway. He'll stay put at second. Pillar flies out to shallow center. So Cliff Pennington gets the start in place of Ryan Goins, and Goins done a terrific job lately, playing almost every day at second. But you got to keep Pennington sharp as well, and with the left-hander on the mound, John Gibbons penciled his number into the lineup.
Hey, anytime there is a left-hander on the mound here in Fenway Park, and you have a chance to use a right-handed batter, I think you have to, don't you? Goins has been outstanding for the Blue Jays of late. Hitting, fielding, base running, a little bit of everything. But if you've got a right-handed hitter, a guy who can get the ball up into the air, you got to play him.
Pennington is a .340 hitter in this ballpark, but has never hit a home run here at Fenway. Playing tonight in his 14th career game. Flying ball to deep center field. A lot of room out there in center. Colabella's going to back and tag, but it's much too late now. Chris Colabella had a chance to move up, but recognized way too late that that ball was going to be a fly ball out.
Boston Red Sox have a lot of good athletes in the outfield now, and one of them is Mookie Betts. And you can see Colabella just drifted a little bit too far from second base. Betts is going to make that catch. You could tell off the bat that that was not going to leave the ballpark. It was going to stay in the park. He's going to run that ball down.
Josh Tolle, the catcher, in the 9th spot. Yeah, on that ball in that direction in this ballpark, you can stay put right at second. If it's over Betts' head, you're going to coast in from second because it's going to be 420 feet away.
And if he catches it like he did, you can tag up and jog to third base if you want. Just drifted just a little bit too far from second base.
Josh Tolle with no balls and 1 strike with 2 outs. Blue Jays have that 1-0 lead.
And another thing about this ballpark, if he's at third base and there's a single to left field, he scores. There's no guarantee he's going to score on a single to left field now.
Yeah, every 90 feet very important here at Fenway. And Tolle, a left-handed hitter facing a left-handed pitcher, is going to go that way.
The outfield is showing and assuming that he's going to hit that ball that way. There it is, Holt in left field, guarding line, Mookie Betts in left center field. If Josh could get the barrel out and pull a ball either down in the corner into right center field, he might have a triple.
There's that flying ball to left. Holt coming in, and he'll get there. The inning is up. Colabella with the leadoff double, but he doesn't move off second. The Blue Jays strand a base runner. We go to the bottom of the second. It's 1-0 Blue Jays.
Stroman getting the start Saturday in New York, and he was absolutely thrilled with the news. Says it's full circle. He was hoping to get the ball opening day in New York back in April, now gets to pitch there. He also went out of his way to thank so many people for helping him get back to where he is now, and one name he could not forget was that of Mark Buehrle. He continues to talk about Mark Buehrle as another father to him. He said that during the entire time that he was on the DL and rehabbing, he would speak to Mark Buehrle every day, either call him or text him, would always get some great words of advice from Buehrle. He was the first one he came and hugged when he came back to Toronto, and of course he's now thinking about Mark as he goes back to Toronto to get an MRI on that shoulder, which we're told is not a big deal. They just want to make sure that he is fresh and ready to go down the stretch. But it's going to be very interesting to see Burley and Stroman in the rotation, two guys who really are a family, father and son.
Certainly opposite ends of the experience spectrum. And Mark Burley, the veteran, went back to Toronto, see if he can't get that shoulder right. This time of the year, it's not unusual. There are cortisone shots all the time, and it's just a precautionary measure, hopeful of getting Burley right. David Ortiz, he's been right lately. Ortiz with a pair of doubles in yesterday's game. He finished up 2 for 4, walked and scored a pair of runs, drove in a run. Pulls this ball. Colabello will go to the back. 4 up, 4 down for Dickey to start the ball game.
You're right. That knuckleball seems to have a little bit more bite on it tonight. And he's throwing it in the strike zone, putting it in a good spot. It's a very hot, I mean very hot Boston Red Sox team offensively.
Yeah, they're really swinging the bats well, and certainly the pressure of a pennant race has long since disappeared here at Fenway, and they've gotten a lot of kids up, giving Jackie Bradley Jr. a chance to play. Mookie Betts has been here all year, and he's been terrific. There's a deep drive to right, and this one's going to go into the seats off the bat of Travis Shaw. His 9th home run. Another youngster is getting a chance to show his skills here in Boston.
He's a big guy too. Had a chance to meet him and talk to him around the batting cage today. He's got a sweet swing. 8 of those home runs have been right here at Fenway Park, and he picks in the right spot, right down the right field line, picks on that spot for an easy home run. It's not that far. And it looked like Ari Dickey was going to try and get the sinker over early, but it ends up right down the middle. And with that swing, he's going to tie the game.
Pablo Sandoval hits one right on the nose, but at the shortstop, Troy Tulowitzki. So that's a line drive out. 2 outs now. Well, you know, if you look back at that last start Dickey made, he threw a lot of fastballs, and certainly the Red Sox are going to pick up on that. And when you got a young hitter like Travis Shaw, hitting coach Chili Davis say, hey, go up there and look for a fastball early in the count. That's what he's done lately. This is Brock Holt, and what a player he has turned into be for the Red Sox. He has started at every position on the field except pitcher and catcher. And in this day and age of 7- and 8-man bullpens, that's a very big asset for the Red Sox.
You need a player who can play multiple positions, and we saw Holt yesterday at second base. Today we're going to see him in left field. Tomorrow we'll probably see him at another position. Torey Lovullo certainly loves that, and he's hitting 280. That's impressive.
This is his 7th start in left field. He's made 5 starts at first base, 47 at second, 18 at third, 7 at short, 2 in center, and 16 in right. Tulowitzki circles around that grounder and throws to first. That ends the inning. But another rookie for the Red Sox coming up with a big hit. Travis Shaw, home run number 9, has made it a 1-1 game.
The new Sportsnet app has you covered. Keep up to speed with everything Blue Jays. Don't miss a pitch with our in-depth live game tracker, plus the latest news, videos, and interviews on Canada's team. Download the new Sportsnet app today, and a lot of these fans from all over Canada enjoying the Sportsnet app here in Boston. Buck?
Barry, they are from all over Canada, and they're having a great time here in Boston, turning out at beautiful Fenway Park. They'll finish up their season series here in Boston tomorrow. The Blue Jays will. The series stands this season 7-7. After tonight, they'll have 4 more games left. Boston will start the final homestand of the season on the 18th of September. Ben Revere was hit by a pitch his first time up.
Blue Jays in the first inning did a good job of manufacturing a run. They got a run without a base hit. They ran the bases well. They played some small ball. They had a chance in inning number 2 to do the same thing, but they were not able to bring that leadoff double around.
Yeah, and those things are very important. They're going to stick out like a sore thumb. You don't advance the runner after the leadoff double by Colabello. Pilar couldn't move him. And then that long fly ball to center, that would have cashed in Colabello from third had Pilar advanced him, and they just didn't take advantage of that leadoff double.
You got to do everything right, it seems like, when you're playing the Red Sox, who are hot right now in this ballpark. You have advantages to score some run, you better pick them up.
Good off-speed pitch. Revere was out in front. It's 2 balls and 2 strikes to Revere. Leading off the third. Ben Revere led that double steal. He stole third. Bautista moved into second right behind him. Outside. When Ben Revere was first acquired by the Blue Jays, there was some thought that they might platoon him in left field. But they did a little more research and found out that he'd put up pretty good numbers against lefty pitching throughout his career.
The guy led the National League in hits last year, so he must have been facing some left-handers somewhere. 184 hits last year. He got off to a slow start with the Blue Jays, but he's picked it up, as you can see, over the last 33 games, a .317 average. He scored 24 runs.
Yeah, he has really been the perfect fit for the Blue Jays. Initially, of course, it was Troy Tulowitzki that was hitting in the leadoff spot. John Gibbons felt like, well, I don't want to mess up the heart of my order. I'll put Tulowitzki in the top, because after trading Reyes, they didn't have a legitimate leadoff man. And then they found out that Ben Revere was going to come over, and all of a sudden his stroke started to come around. Another good changeup from Owens. First strikeout of the night.
Swing for the fences and save during the DIY Expert Sale. Only at Home Building Center and Home Hardware Building Center.
The Blue Jays this season have led the majors with home runs off rookie pitchers. Whether they're starters or relievers, they have combined to hit 44 home runs off rookie pitchers. That's the most in the majors. Donaldson was looking for something soft.
Crossed him up with that fastball. That's how you welcome a young kid to the big leagues, right? If you're the Blue Jays. Hit a home run off of him.
They are also 17-5 against rookie starters this season. Changeup seems to be the most effective pitch for Henry Owens here early in this ball game.
Starting to use it a little bit more. Matters up until this game, we're hitting over 300 against that changeup. Carl Willis is a big believer in changing speeds. That's the pitching coach of the Boston Red Sox.
High fly ball down in that tight little corner, and that ball is going to be foul. Willie Rivera went out near the third base bag to get a real good look at it. John Gibbons, he's not going to waste an opportunity. He's going over to check in with Jim Reynolds, the home plate umpires. And man, it's tough to tell when that ball is hit so high, because the foul pole does not extend that high. And it was well above the foul pole. Willie Rivera, third base coach, he went out near the third base bag to give it a look. And why not? I mean, it was obviously well out of the ballpark.
Hey, this point of the season and where we are, I think you got to be able to look at everything. Right here, they're going to take a look at it. It's high enough, and you're right, they don't have that foul pole high enough. It's a very short distance to left field, so any ball in the air, I think that thing has to extend up another 20 or 30 feet.
Well, obviously, when they built this ballpark and opened it in 1912, nobody hit balls as far as they do now. So they didn't think much about extending the foul pole, but now you could raise it another 50 feet. Donaldson and Bautista, they certainly gave it a good look. They were standing there talking about the possibility of it being fair. And now the umpires, they're on the headset in communication with New York. The ruling on the field is that it was a foul ball.
You know, and I just don't know how you have video to tell if that ball is fair or foul, because it was so high and so far over the foul pole.
Now, this is another argument for extending the foul poles and making sure that you do everything you can. And, you know, you can raise it as high as the light pole. No reason you can't do that.
Yeah. Certainly makes a lot of sense, and they're going to call that a foul ball.
Yep. They had another look at it, and just to make sure.
You know what you could do is extend it and put a camera on it. And the camera will tell you if it's fair or foul.
Yeah. I still like my idea of electrifying it, and if the baseball hits it, then it lights up. So Donaldson with a 2-2 count now. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Missed away. Jose Bautista has 21 home runs in this ballpark. He'll be next. Ball 4. Bautista will take the outside pitch. That'll bring Bautista to the plate. Jose walked his first time up, and the Blue Jays as a team offensively have really put up huge numbers since the end of July.
It's right around the trade deadline. The Blue Jays, look at the offense. We know how great they were in the first half of the season, but it seems like they have taken it to the next level, and that has transferred into some wins. 28-8, the first best in the major leagues in that ranking. Average runs per game, home runs, a little bit of everything offensively.
Bautista checked his swing and fouled it out of play. Owens worked Jose inside with fastballs, got a couple of strikes right on the inside corner. Coming in there again. Just missed. You see, when a hitter like Bautista just raises his arms and lets that ball pass, that has no impact whatsoever. You either got to catch that inside corner or push him off the plate. He was looking for that changeup that time. He sat back and made an educated guess that it was going to be an off-speed pitch.
I haven't seen Henry Owens double up on a pitch yet in this first couple of innings right here. So as a hitter, if he throws you a fastball inside, maybe you can look for a breaking ball, and it looked like Jose was sitting on that breaking ball right there.
Donaldson will pick his spots very prudently. He's 5 for 5 in stolen base attempts. Blue Jays had a double steal that led to their run in the first. Fouled straight back over our head. 1-2. Bautista has been one of the offensive leaders lately, and it was just a matter of time before he got another hot streak. Jose is 4th in the American League with 96 RBIs. He's 7th in runs scored with 93. I mean, that's a terrific season. You drive in 100 and score 100, you're having an impact.
How about more walks than strikeouts for a slugger?
Trying to check his swing, and he did, according to first base umpire Paul Schreiber.
I mean, a lot of times when you need or you want those 30 home runs and those 100 RBIs, you got to give something back and maybe say, okay, well, I'll trade some strikeouts for the home runs, but you don't have to say that about Jose. He has walked more than he has struck out this year. He's just a good, disciplined hitter who makes that pitcher come to him.
Another changeup and a good one. Bautista strikes out. 2 strikeouts in the inning.
We're heading through the second time through the lineup here, and the Blue Jays are putting together a game plan against Henry Owens. First time through, there was a lot more fastballs, and now the second time through, we're seeing a few more breaking balls, change-ups and sliders and curveballs.
Edwin Encarnacion had an RBI ground out his first time up. I don't think the Blue Jays are going to run here with 2 outs. They'll let Edwin take a shot at that green monster.
There's Tim Leeper with his stopwatch right there. He is timing everything.
This is popped up over near the Red Sox dugout. And that's going to be caught by Travis Shaw as he stayed right there. Ball came back over the playing field. He made the catch. The Blue Jays leave a base run. We'll head to the bottom of the 3rd here in Fenway. It's a 1-1 game.
Canadian high school amateur baseball players with college eligibility. It's Tournament 12 presented by New Era and Roberto Alomar. It goes September 14th through 18th, and for tickets, you can visit bluejays.com/T12. And tonight, we recognize a few members of Team Quebec, including Isaac Deveau, Matthew Dino-Gauthier, and Vincent Beauregard. All young players with a great opportunity to move on to possibly major league careers. Buck?
Well, we want to wish them all the best during Tournament 12, and hopefully they'll have a good showing in front of all those college coaches. Great opportunity to pick up a scholarship and continue your education. This is the catcher, Blake Swihart. And we mentioned the Red Sox manager, Torey Lovullo, in reflecting after the game yesterday, said, you know what, I know Swihart and Sandoval were thinking about the team when they dropped down those bunts, but I would have just as soon they were swinging away, especially in this ballpark.
Yeah, he also asked what they were thinking about when they did that. I got a question for you, trivia question for you. Who do you think has the highest batting average as a catcher since the All-Star break in the American League?
Is it Blake Swihart?
It is Blake Swihart.
Well, that's another reason why the manager was upset that he was bunting.
That's what I'm talking about. The guy swinging a hot bat. I mean, the highest batting average, he's hitting .354 since the All-Star break. The best for a catcher in the American League.
You know, the Red Sox have had a lot of adversity this year, but they've found out a lot of things during the adverse times. And right there, Dickey sneaks the fastball past Swihart. So that'll bring to the plate the hottest hitter in the Red Sox lineup. Number 9 hitter Jackie Bradley Jr. Got an 8-game hit streak, 15 for his last 26.
What a tandem he and Mookie Betts make, hitting 9 and 1 in this lineup. You can see what their streaks are looking like. 577 for Jackie Bradley Jr., 396 for Mookie Betts. They're athletic. They put good at bats together. They can run. They've got extra base pop. Jackie Bradley Jr. has got that average up over 300 now.
Well, we talk about Tournament 12 and high school players trying to get some college education. Jackie Bradley Jr. was undrafted out of high school. Went to University of South Carolina. And that's where he really blossomed as Dickey strikes him out on 3 pitches. So Dickey taking care of Swihart and Bradley. That'll bring up Mookie Betts, the leadoff man. But they're 2 very exciting young players, and what a difference. We saw Bradley Jr. early, and he was lost.
But he's made some adjustments. Mookie Betts got off to a decent start this year. Really electrifies this crowd with his ability. He can run, and seems to be a daring player to me. Meaning that he will take chances, but with his athleticism, he can make things happen.
He's got a 15-game hit streak against the Blue Jays dating back to last September. And Dickey stays ahead, 0-2.
He's played 18 games against the Blue Jays, hit .387 with 3 home runs.
He's got a 13-game hit streak. Up the middle, base hit. Make it 14 games for Mookie Betts. A 2-out single to extend his hit streak.
And this should be a lot of fun, I think, to watch Betts at first base and R.A. Dickey on the mound. He does a good job of holding runners. Goes with the knuckleball. Betts sends it right back through the middle to extend that hit streak. He is a threat to steal over there at first base.
17 for 22 in stolen base attempts for Mookie Betts, and Dickey will keep an eye on him. That's the best way to shut down a running game, is to throw strike 1. Eliminate the number of pitches that Betts has to run on. Boy, Dickey's quick to first base. Very athletic, and he makes a quick move, and then he will unload and hold the ball a little bit longer. He does a good job of keeping the running game under wraps.
Quick to first. He's also quick to home.
Back to the mound. Pedroia taps it back to Dickey. The 2-out single. The Red Sox strand a base runner will head to the 4th in the 1-1 game here at Fenway.
Covered. Get scores, stats, analysis, and everything that matters. Sportsnet.ca is your home for everything Blue Jays. And just an example, we had Arden Zwelling in Pawtucket yesterday covering Marcus Stroman. Shai Davidi joining me here at Fenway Park. Tonight they're both here. Sportsnet.ca is everywhere, Buck.
There is, and anytime you want to check out some special stories about the Blue Jays, check it out. Sportsnet.ca will have you covered. It'll be Tulowitzki, then Colabella, followed by Kevin Pillar. And Tulowitzki gets hit by the pitch, an inside pitch. Tulowitzki will go to first, and he's feeling it.
He wears an elbow pad, and it looked like it got up around that elbow area. Second batter that the Blue Jays have been hit tonight. He does it the right way, doesn't he? Don't rub it.
Either do that or pick up a handful of dirt and rub it because you want to show the pitcher it didn't hurt. It gets hit right on the point of that elbow, on that elbow pad. So he's aboard. Ben Revere was hit by a pitch leading off the ball game, came around to score. Now Chris Colabello will step in. Colabello had a leadoff double in the second, but never moved off second as the Blue Jays couldn't cash in. Colabello goes after that first pitch. The Blue Jays had their fantasy football draft yesterday, and Chris Colabello had a surprise guest show up. Colabello, we mentioned he's from Massachusetts, and he became very good friends with Gordy Gronkowski, who has a very famous brother, Rob Gronkowski, who's the tight end for the Patriots. So Rob Gronkowski and Chandler Jones, the tight end for the Patriots, showed up at the Blue Jays fantasy football draft last night. It was a big hit.
And the first thing he says, Gronk, when he comes in, who picked me in what round?
Bautista stood up and said, I took you in the first round.
But how about that from Chris Colabello, huh?
Chris Colabello played with Gordy Gronkowski in the Independent League at Worcester. And so they became fast friends, and they've stayed in touch. Gordy Gronkowski is the only Gronkowski boy to play baseball. The other four all played football. And the youngest, Glenn, is a fullback at K-State right now. But you can imagine they're all big boys. And Colabello has stayed in touch with the Gronkowski family. And last night they had an off night, and they showed up in Boston and came to the Blue Jays fantasy football draft. Outside, 2 balls and 2 strikes. It's a 1-1 ball game. Red Sox have 2 hits. The Blue Jays have just 1. Henry Owens has walked 2 and hit 2. He's also racked up 2 strikeouts. Now it's a full count. You start the runner here?
I would. I would take my chances that Colabello's going to make contact here. Tulo is 1 for 1 in stolen bases. Look what he has done over the last 21 games. He's hit over 400. You got to figure that he's got enough information now from Owens that he's going to make contact.
Tulowitzki at first. And they're going to check in on him.
Blue Jays used a hit batter in the double steal in the first inning to get a run. Why not do it again here in the 4th inning?
They had a hit batter, a wild pitch, a walk, and a ground out for their 1 run. Tulowitzki's not running. Strike 3 call. Colabello can't believe it. And he's got a few words for Jim Reynolds as he walks back to the Blue Jays dugout. He had a good look at it and thought it was off the plate and down.
Well, you never see Colabello argue like that, but he felt like that pitch was ball 4. One more time, let's see what the pitch is. Breaking ball, that looks like it's low. Colabello's a big dude.
Yeah, that was pretty low. It was an off-speed pitch, another changeup. Guess you could say on pitch trackers it's borderline. May have touched the bottom of that zone. Kevin Pillar. Pillar flied out his first time up. Blue Jays just haven't been able to get any sustained rally going. In yesterday's game, they had 9 hits, but they hit into 4 double plays. Kevin Pillar for the season has 22 hits against the Red Sox. He's hit them very well all year long. There's a liner into center. That's going to get down in front of Mookie Betts. Tulowitzki stops at second. First and second, 1 out. Let's check it with Jamie Campbell. Well, the Mets won yesterday, and they have a 5-game lead over the Nationals. They're playing a 3-game series. Good pitching matchups in those games. Jordan Zimmerman is on the mound for the Nationals. But Pennington fouls it back.
Oh, you got great pitching in that whole series, and then all the hubbub about Matt Harvey and his innings, and that's not going to go away.
No, it's not, and I think the Mets are doing the right thing. Don't make any announcements until you have to. Pennington behind 0-2. Matt Harvey, Jordan Zimmerman tonight, and then Jacob deGrom and Steven Strasburg tomorrow. But the Mets trying to keep the Nationals at bay. (0-2) to Pennington. On the ground, Sandoval to second for 1, back to first, not in time, and Shaw does a nice job. Travis Shaw came off the bag to take the errant throw, was able to scoop it and keep Tulowitzki at third base.
You know, the ball wasn't hit that hard, and that allowed Kevin Pillar to get right on top of Dustin Pedroia at second base. Here comes Sandoval with the throw, and then watch Pillar really try and get in the way of Dustin Pedroia at second base to break that thing up. He's there as well as anybody. Pilar gets kicked right in the head, knocks his helmet off, and that allows Pennington to make it all the way to first base.
That's a terrific slide. And it's clean. 2 outs, runners at the corners. Tolley takes strike 1.
Boy, the Blue Jays got to take advantage of this right here. Hit by a pitch and a single. You need a clutch 2-out hit.
Popped up behind home. Swihart back, and he'll watch it bounce on the screen. The Blue Jays have had chances tonight, but they're just 1 for 10 with runners on base. They've had all those extra base runners without benefit of a hit. 2 hit batters and 2 walks. Tulowitzki got hit by a pitch. Look at Brock Holt. I mean, you can't get much closer to the foul line than Holt is.
Get the head out right here.
If Tolley could hit one to the right of the mound on the line and hit it hard, Pennington might be able to score from first.
Or over the first baseman's head down the right field line.
1-2. Popped it up. This is playable. Sandoval, the third baseman, into foul ground, makes the catch. And again, the Blue Jays strand a pair. Through 4 innings, the Jays have left 5 base runners in this 1-1 game. And 10 at the All-Star break, but he has turned things around dramatically. When you look at his second half ERA, he is among the best in the American League.
How about the Blue Jays having 3 of the top 5 earned run averages in the second half? Marco Estrada, David Bryson, along with Keuchel and Verlander, but R.A. Dickey 278, and he has won 7 of those 10 starts since his last loss on July the 9th to pull that record to 10-10.
R.A. Dickey has worked very hard at turning his season around, and he's done it dramatically. He was having alignment problems. He was landing on that lead foot and falling off to the first base side. His head was tilted a little bit toward that first base line. That was creating problems. He lost velocity on his fastball and velocity on his knuckleball. And it was creating a lot of problems for his command. During the first 18 starts, Dickey threw 16.3 pitches per inning. In his last 10 starts, he's cut that down by 2 full pitches per inning. And obviously that'll keep you in the game longer.
Yes,
give you a better chance to win.
Described to us that he was rotating around his pitches instead of staying forward and the momentum going towards home. And you can see he is in the strike zone a lot more consistent.
His 10 starts since the All-Star break, he's pitched to a 278 earned run average, and the team has gone 9-1. That's how you pick up the slack. I mean, at this point of his career, sure, Dickey wants this win. It would be his 100th career win. But what he's done is he's kept his team in the pennant race.
All you can ask for. Give your team a chance to win every single night. He's been in that strike zone. He's just not walking guys. He's walked 2 batters or less in 12 straight.
Right back up the middle. Pennington makes a nice play and throws out Bogarts. Boy, there's a hit taken away by Cliff Pennington, a former shortstop, making a nice adjustment to second base.
You know, one thing that I'm impressed with R.A. is how quick his hands are when the ball comes back there. He ticked that ball, slowed it down just enough for Pennington to run it down, and R.A. thought he should have had it, but he did a good job of getting that glove up there, deflecting it and slowing it down for Pennington.
Boy, the defense has been so good in the second half of the season. David Ortiz pops it out of play.
There's Ortiz again, closing in on 100 RBIs. He's already had his 30 home run season. He just keeps doing it.
Ortiz has 200 career home runs here at Fenway Park. That's the most home runs in any park by an active player. Home run cut.
That 497 we saw, that's how many career home runs Ortiz has as he closes in on 500.
Hit his first home run on September 14th, 1997 at Texas against the Rangers against Julio Santana. He didn't hit his first home run against the Blue Jays until April 5th, 2002 at Toronto against Brandon Lyon. It was his first career home run against the Blue Jays. Now he has 58.
And that's the most against any opponent in his illustrious career. There it is. Eddie Murray is next up on the list at 504. He's 27th all time, just past Fred McGriff.
2-2. He strikes him out. Dickey strikes out Ortiz. 4 strikeouts now for R.A. We mentioned Dickey's in his best stretch of pitching as a Blue Jay.
High knuckleball this time. And Big Poppy's going to come up empty.
Two outs. Travis Shaw homered his first time up. This time he bounces it back to Dickey, makes another good play. Quick inning for Dickey in the 4th, 3 up, 3 down with the strikeout. We'll head to the 5th. It's a 1-1 game. Now time for Blue Jays Central Update. Here's Jamie Campbell and Greg Zahn.
tonight. You can share a video or photo showing your Blue Jays spirit by using the hashtag 2TDTuesday and tag @BlueJays for a chance to win. Buck?
Thank you very much, Barry. And we are in Fenway Park. Beautiful Fenway Park. It's cooled down a little bit, I think. It was smoking hot today. Everybody around Boston not used to this type of weather. Here we are in the second week of September. 4 weeks left in the baseball season. After this game, Blue Jays will have 24 games left on their schedule. And there is literally no time to look ahead.
No.
Got to pay attention to what's going on right here.
I don't even think it's time to start scoreboard watching.
No.
Way too early. You might do that the last week or 10 days of the season.
Well, the Blue Jays are in first place. They take care of business. Everybody else has to watch the scoreboard. Then Revere reached base in the first. He was hit by a pitch. He struck out on a high changeup in the third. Where was that pitch?
Looked like it might have been high to Revere.
That one's ball four for sure. And Owens puts the leadoff man on again. Blue Jays have had the leadoff man on in every inning, and they haven't been able to really capitalize on their opportunities.
This looked like a fastball one more time, and he doesn't finish it. That pitch, and he just misses Revere for the second time.
No, they've had the leadoff man in 4 of the 5 innings now. Revere struck out to start the third. Josh Donaldson, he walked his last time up.
Ooh, he was ready for that one, wasn't he?
Just 89 miles an hour, but because Owens has been so effective with his changeup, Blue Jays a little bit late on that fastball. Donaldson and Smoke homered in the game yesterday afternoon. Veer stole third base in the first inning. His 27th steal of the season. The front end of a double steal. Ground ball. Bogarts backhands, goes to Pedroia for one. Back to first, double play. That's the 5th double play the Blue Jays have hit into here at Fenway Park. This is the second game of the 3-game series, and Pedroia looks like he hasn't missed a beat coming back off the DL.
Xander Bogaerts has improved so much as a shortstop, and look at Pedroia use second base as a defender, taking the throw, staying behind the bag, making Revere go over the bag. And then Ben can't get him. Henry Owens likes that after walking the leadoff batter. Another double play by the Blue Jays.
Bautista pops up the first pitch. Jackie Bradley Jr. is there, and the inning is over. So once again, the Blue Jays hit into a double play. That's 5 double plays since they've come to Boston.
MLB.tv. Watch every out-of-market game live in HD on more than 400 devices with the MLB.tv premium package. Real-time highlights, live look-ins, pitch tracking, and much more. Every night on every device. Visit BlueJays.com for more details. What?
Thank you very much, Barry Davis. Lots of Blue Jay fans here. Lots of Blue Jay fans everywhere. Blue Jays have really created a following. You have an opportunity to come to a great ballpark here. Enjoyed Labor Day Monday afternoon baseball. This is the third baseman, Pablo Sandoval. He lined out to Troy Tulowitzki in the second. Fly ball to left. Revere is back. He's going to play it off the monster, and it bounces high over his head. That allows Sandoval to get to second base. That ball hit the warning track and bounced straight up in the air, and that eliminated any opportunity to make a play on Sandoval.
That's why left-handed batters are at such an advantage here. You can get fooled by a pitch and just be late. You can wait long, be late, and then still hit it off the top of the wall. Bounces off that. Dickey can't believe how high that ball went up off the wall. And then you're right, it bounced off the warning track for an extra base.
That is such a difficult play for a left fielder. This is Brock Holt. The reason it's difficult, you go back and you think you got a chance to catch it, and then you recognize that it's going to hit the wall, and then you try to move and you go too far away. I mean, it's a very difficult position to play.
And you're not sure how that ball is going to come off the wall. I've played left field here. It can hit that ladder that is out there. It can hit off the top of the scoreboard. It could hit and bounce one way. Another time it'll hit the exact same spot and bounce another way. You just have to give yourself some room.
Ground ball. Tulowitzki will have to go to first as Sandoval got a good read, broke on contact, and moves to third.
The all-new 2016 Honda Pilot, proud partner and official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
So the Red Sox get the leadoff double, and Brock Holt does his job. He moves Sandoval from second to third. Now the infield's got to come in and play in tight against Blake Swihart.
That was a good read by Pablo Sandoval.
Line drive to left, and Revere makes the catch, and Sandoval can't tag. Good job by Revere. He charged in quickly. The ball was sinking fast, but he made a knee-high catch and came up throwing. Sandoval, it was just too close for him to take.
Sometimes the wall will giveth, and sometimes it'll take away. What you can do as a left fielder, you can play a little bit more shallow because anything over your head's going to hit off that wall. That's exactly what Ben Revere and the Blue Jays are doing here in this series. He's playing very shallow, and that allows him to get a good break on that line drive to left field and keeps that runner at third base.
Well, this is an interesting situation now with 2 outs. Jackie Bradley Jr. struck out his first time up. Sandoval is at third. It's a 1-1 game. Sandoval's not getting too far off of third. He has seen the Blue Jays in the past put a pickoff play in exactly this situation. 2 outs, and he's not getting too much of a lead. Ground ball toward first. Colabella will scoop and go to the bag. Dickey gets out of it. So the Red Sox can't take advantage of the leadoff double. They leave Sandoval at third as we head to the 6th. It's still a tie game.
nation celebrating Canada's team with a 22-day countdown to the last home game. Share your passion with hashtag 22days Blue Jays and let the celebration begin. Buck, what I love about Fenway Park here in Boston is you have fans from Nova Scotia, from Newfoundland. I saw a couple here today that came all the way from Edmonton, Alberta, all over the country to see their Blue Jays.
Well, it's a great ballpark, and certainly when your team is playing here at Fenway Park, why not marry the two? Get a chance to see a beautiful ballpark and see Blue Jays play on the road.
Great city, too, in Boston, and you get to see one of the best teams in baseball, the Blue Jays.
And when Encarnacion hits a fly ball into shallow left field, Brock Holt coming in. One down. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell's got an update for us. Now that's what you say. Jamie Campbell is on top of the story.
That's a real update right
Way to
there.
go, Jamie. Up the middle. That's a base hit for Tulowitzki. He's been hitting the ball hard throughout this series, and finally he finds a hole.
Yeah, right between the pitcher's legs. He got hit last time up by Henry Owens, and he was going to return the favor with the ball back through the middle.
Chris Colabello called out on a borderline pitch in the fourth. Colabello doubled in the second, but he didn't advance past second. Stayed right there. They called him for a balk. He started and stopped, and Tulowitzki will move to second.
And he wants to get an explanation from the umpires. That's Field and Colbert at second base. The crew chief. Let's take a look at it right here. Yeah, you could see just a little bit of a turn, like he was getting ready to go into his glove. Just a real little hint of it.
It's only the 8th balk committed by the Red Sox. That's a lot for a pitching staff. That's 8 balks, and certainly that extra 90 feet in a 1-run game is something you don't want to give up. And then takes the Red Sox out of the bullpen, out of the double play situation.
Maki is now going to get loose for the Red Sox. He has been closing some games for them. I'm a little surprised to see him up here in the 6th inning.
Two and 0 to Colabello. Now 3-0. You let him hit here?
I'm going to let him hit. I've got enough faith in Colabello. He's hitting .329 coming into this game. He's already hit a double off the wall. Don't know if they would challenge him with first base open now after the balk.
Ball gets away. Tulowitzki's headed for third, and he'll get there. Ball in the dirt was ball 4 to Colabello, but it got away from Swihart. And Tulowitzki moves up, so the balk pushed him to second. The wild pitch allows him to take third.
And how about that? They didn't challenge him. They threw him a changeup, 3-0, and bounced it in front of home plate. One more time, Colabello. He's going out there like he's going to hit, and then takes it out. That obviously is not the wild pitch. It was a changeup in the dirt that allowed Tulowitzki to get the third, and it was ball 4, and that's going to bring Torey Lovullo out. Henry Owens might be finished here.
So Henry Owens walks Colabello. He has walked 4. Colabello, the manager, doesn't seem like he's made up his mind just yet. Yes, he has. There's the call to the bullpen. Owens' night is done. He leaves with runners at the corners and 1 out. It's a 1-1 game. Gene Machie comes in for the Red Sox.
Only at Home Building Center and Home Hardware Building Center.
It's a 1-1 ball game, and Gene Machie, the hard-throwing right-hander, he's got a great split. You can see his numbers with San Francisco and Boston, total 48 games for the season.
Fastball slider split, and righties have had their way with him. A 348 average against Machie this season, a whip of 1.5. He can get wild at times. Told you that he had been closing for a while for the Red Sox, 4 for 4 in save opportunities this season, all with the Boston Red Sox. But they're going to bring him in here in the 6th inning, and they're going to face Kevin Pillar.
Boston picked him up off the waiver wire on July 28th from the Giants. He has spent time in the Blue Jays organization. 2007 and 2008 he was in Double-A with the Blue Jays. Kevin Pillar singled his last time up. It's a 1-1 game. Each team with just 3 hits. Colabello at first. The Blue Jays grounded into a double play in the 5th. Pillar's got to look for something up in the zone.
Yeah, take that splitter, because that's what he's going to try and throw him.
There it is. Down and away.
He's going to throw that thing that tumbles like that, hoping that the batter hits on top of it and gets the ball on the ground. What Pillar has to do is make sure he gets it up. There's the grip. He'll use it as he peers in to try and get the sign.
Ground ball up the middle. Bogaerts flips to Pedroia, back to first. Another double play. Boston's defense has bailed out their pitching staff throughout this series. That's the second double play turn by the Red Sox tonight. Bogaerts goes up the middle, flips to the Gold Glover. Pedroia at second, and the Blue Jays done in the top of the 6th.
Jays have sure supplied their share this year, and now you can vote for your favorite Blue Jays defensive play of the 2015 season with the All-State Good Hands Defensive Play of the Year contest. One lucky winner will receive 2 tickets and the chance to throw out the ceremonial first pitch on Saturday, September 26th, as the Blue Jays take on the Tampa Bay Rays. Round-trip airfare and hotel included. Contest closes Monday, September 14th. See BlueJays.com for all the rules, and you can see some fantastic plays by the Toronto Blue Jays defense this year, including one today when Ben Revere came in, made a great play, and prevented a run from scoring.
Many of the Blue Jay players have made outstanding defensive plays. That's a fair ball. Big out to start the bottom of the 6th. Mookie Betts grounds out to Donaldson.
Boy, it sure is. Big out to get that guy off the bases. He can steal bases. He can cause havoc all by himself.
Dustin Pedroia was the Rookie of the Year in 2007. Took it up a notch in 2008, was the MVP. He's a 4-time All-Star, 4-time Gold Glover. Terrific player.
You know who he reminds me of a little bit?
High and deep to left. Revere at the wall. He'll jump, and it's over his head. Kevin Pillar coming from center will back him up, and he missed it initially, but Pedroia had already stopped at second.
Kevin Pillar is the guy he reminds me of because for his whole life people have told Pedroia, you can't do this and you can't do that, and he said, I'm going to show you. This one is a Fenway double for sure. High and down the line and just out of the reach of Revere. Pillar was hustling over Tulowitzki. Tulowitzki was hustling out at shortstop to try and retrieve that ball, but it's a double for Pedroia.
1 out. Xander Bogaerts. He's grounded out twice so far this afternoon. Ball gets away, but Tolle gets on it quickly. I tell you what, you see a lot of different styles of games, a lot of blowout games in this ballpark. We had one yesterday. It was 11-4 Boston, and here we are in the bottom of the 6th. It's a 1-1 game. 7 hits in the ball game.
7 hits total in the ball games and just 2 runs. These are the type of games where mental mistakes or physical mistakes always seem to cost a team.
Or tonight, you could say for the Blue Jays, lack of execution because they had a leadoff double they couldn't take advantage of. Well, Bello doubled in the 2nd, and he didn't advance past 2nd. Dickey throws a 2-0 knuckleball and throws a strike.
Well, Xander Bogaerts is just too good of a hitter. You can't throw him anything but knuckleballs. He's going to hurt you.
Now it's 3-1.
One of the things the Red Sox wanted to get out of Bogaerts this year is teach him to become a good hitter, and that's why his power is down. He only has 5 home runs, but he's driven in 71 runs. He knows how to use the whole field. He hits the ball hard, tries to stay in the middle of the diamond, and now he's going to walk.
First and second, 1 out. David Ortiz coming to the plate. Let's check in quickly with Jamie Campbell. What a season Rodriguez has had after missing basically 2 full seasons. He hits the home run. Alex Rodriguez has 78 RBIs at 40 years old. David Ortiz 0 for 2 with a strikeout.
Ortiz is not running very well at all. And if they can get that ball on the ground, hit a ground ball, they got a great chance of turning 2. Thing about Ortiz, though, doesn't hit a lot of ground balls. He lifts the ball.
Brett Cecil starting to loosen up for the Blue Jays. Ortiz fouls it off. 1-2. Pennington, the second baseman, just on the edge of the grass. You can't really afford to go any deeper as they would normally play Ortiz with runners at first and second. The Blue Jays scored their run in the first on a ground out by Edwin Encarnacion. That's scored Ben Revere from third. The Red Sox run came on a solo home run in the second off the bat of Travis Shaw. So 1-1 game, bottom of the sixth. R.A. Dickey's first walk of the ball game here in the sixth inning. He walked Bogarts. Popped up. Tulowitzki out into shallow left, calls for it. Infield fly rule. And Ortiz is retired. 2 outs now, but now Dickey has to deal with Travis Shaw, who homered earlier tonight.
Yeah. This is yesterday off of Jeff Francis. It's a hanging breaking ball. Just got to reach of Bautista and into the bullpen. And then first pitch swinging against R.A. Dickey. Looked like it might have been a fastball. Curls it down that line in right field. David Ortiz is a very hot hitter. Travis Shaw hot also.
Well, you can bet Shaw's not going to get any fastball in this at-bat. He's accounted for the Red Sox run.
Josh Tolley's going to go out and talk to Dickey after that last pitch.
Obviously, in a one-run game, both teams really not able to deliver with runners in scoring position. The Blue Jays are 0 for 9 so far. The Red Sox are 0 for 4. Two balls and no strikes.
Infield playing deep. Anything on the ground, they got to keep it on the infield. So Pedroia can't score.
Three and 0. Tough situation for Dickey. Can't give in to Travis Shaw. John Gibbons has a lefty ready for Sandoval on deck. Brett Cecil.
And he's looked very comfortable tonight against R.A. Sandoval. If it comes to that, he lined out the shortstop and then doubled high off the wall.
Fly ball. Ben Revere in left calls for it. And Dickey will strand the pair in the bottom of the sixth. We'll go to the seventh. A well-pitched game by Dickey once again. It's a 1-1 game.
$24.99 a month. Modem rental or purchase required. Ask about our other plans that deliver the fastest internet speeds to the most Canadians. Call 1-888-ROGERS-1 today. Buck?
We have made it to the 7th inning. It's a 1-1 game. Cliff Pennington, Josh Thole, and then Ben Revere. Gene Machi came out of the bullpen and got a double play off the bat of Kevin Pillar to end the 6th. He bailed out Henry Owens. Pennington is 0 for 2.
Blue Jays have to stop hitting into double plays. We saw enough of that in yesterday's ball game 4 times.
6 double plays in this series so far. Hit hard. What a play by Bogaerts. Gets to his feet in time to retire Pennington. 22-year-old Xander Bogaerts has really come into his own this season.
Brian Butterfield, third base coach and infield instructor for this team, says it's the greatest improvement that he has seen from one player from one year to the next. He has seen a lot of players in Major League Baseball. He's been around for about 35 years, and he said Xander Bogaerts' improvement from last year to this year is the greatest he's seen. He has learned this game, and he can really play.
Good job by Machi. He gets the double play and the first out of the bottom of the 7th. Tommy Lane, a left-hander, will come in. Josh Thole, the scheduled batter. Great ball game here at Fenway Park. It's a 1-1 game. Blue Jays are batting in the top of the 7th. New pitcher into the game is the left-hander, Tommy Lane.
He is now in a career-high 53 appearances this season, 1-1 with a .407 earned run average. He's thrown 42 innings. He is now 6th among American League relievers in appearances. They can use him all the time. Fastball, curveball, and that's going to make John Gibbons go to his bench.
Russell Martin will bat for Josh Thole with nobody on. And Lane delivers a first pitch strike. Noe Ramirez, we saw him in yesterday's game. He's got a good arm. Hard throwing right in. Justin Smoak has come out on deck. He's going to bat for Ben Revere. Interesting development, but Smoak is a interesting weapon because he's a switch hitter. You can get Tommy Lane out of the game with just facing one batter. Martin fouls it into the catcher's glove.
Yeah,
2-2.
If they choose to, have Lane face just one batter, you bring in the switch hitter, and if they do, they turn Justin Smoke around. This is September baseball, isn't it? You got expanded rosters, you got plenty of relievers.
3-2. Well, I am of the mind that I don't think it's right. You play the most important baseball of the season, and you allow teams to expand to 40 men. You got a lot of people you don't even know. Russell Martin, pinch hitting, walks with one out.
Smoke has faced Lane one time. He is 1 for 1 against Lane, and that's going to bring the pitching coach out.
Now this is interesting. Carl Willis will come out, and oftentimes the pitching coach won't make a pitching change. He's just going to talk about Smoke as a hitter and how the Red Sox want to go after him. Now Smoke is a switch hitter, natural right-handed hitter, and he has 4 home runs batting right-handed and a .308 average, compared to 10 home runs and a .211 average batting against right-handed pitching. He's got a good swing as a right-handed hitter.
Yeah, he can get underneath that ball and get it up into the air. That one hit that he's had against Lane has been a home run. We mentioned September baseball. There are the standings here on September the 8th.
Yankees and the Orioles are tied 1-1. Alex Rodriguez and Ryan Flaherty have hit solo home runs in the Bronx. Smoke goes after that first pitch. Justin's done a good job as a pinch hitter this season. He's got 6 pinch hits, pair of doubles, and 3 RBIs. Well, he'd like to get one in the air to left right now.
Don't look for a fastball, because you're not going to get it from Tommy Lane. You're going to get an off-speed pitch.
Russell Martin at first entered the game as a pinch hitter. Now Smoke hitting for Ben Revere. Line drive left field, Holt over, and he makes a running catch. Martin retreats to first base. That ball looked like it was working its way away from Holt, but he stayed with it to make a running catch.
Off the bat, that looked like a double for sure. Big gap in left center field. With it hung up there just long enough for Holt, who was playing left field, to run that thing down. That is the second out here in the 7th inning. It's going to bring Torey Lovullo back to the mound.
Noe Ramirez, the hard-throwing right-hander, will come into the ball game to face Josh Donaldson. Chess game going on here at Fenway. gave up a single to Jose Bautista, then got Encarnacion to ground into a double play. Then he had a 1-2-3. No, then he gave way to Ogando in the ninth.
Yeah, he gave up a 2-run single to Bautista. Ramirez pitched out of the bullpen pretty much all season in AAA this season. This is his third stint with his ball club, the Boston Red Sox. He got into 30 games in the minor leagues, 1 start and 29 relief appearances.
2 outs, top of the 7th. Russell Martin's not going anywhere. Donaldson hits it hard, but right to the shortstop, and that'll do it. So far, the bullpen has come in and bailed out the Red Sox in tough situations. This time, it's Ramirez. But Cecil taking over for R.A. Dickey here in the 7th.
Blue Jays had Cecil up last inning, so they're going to bring him in. 50 games this year for Brett, and he is on a nice little roll right now. He's got that fastball that he's pumping in there for strikes, that nice spike curveball that he is using for his strikeouts. You can see he's averaging a strikeout per inning, and he's only walked 13 batters all season long. Other defensive changes for the Blue Jays. Russell Martin stays into the ball game, and he will catch Cecil. Entering the game, Ezequiel Carrera in left field after Justin Smoke pinch hit for Ben Revere.
We go to the bottom of the 7th. It's a 1-1 game. Kind of an unusual score here at Fenway Park, but the pitchers have had the upper hand so far. Pablo Sandoval doubled off the wall in left his last time up. Goes after the first pitch. Cecil swipes at it, and he's fortunate he missed it. Tulowitzki was right there to make the play. Another good start for R.A. Dickey. He's had a terrific second half to his season.
He certainly has. He's going to pick up a no decision in this game, but he throws 6 innings, gives up 4 hits, made 1 mistake. That first pitch fastball to Travis Shaw that he hit out for a home run, or he would be in line for a W. He had 4 strikeouts and just 1 walk against a very hot hitting Boston Red Sox team.
Brock Holt has grounded out twice to the shortstop.
R.A.'s knuckleball was in the strike zone all night long. Pitched out of some trouble, gave up a leadoff double to Sandoval in the 5th, stranded him. A 1-out double in the 6th to Pedroia, stranded him. Then his only mistake was that fastball to Shaw.
Just trying to sneak one by the rookie, and he jumped on it and hit it into the seats in right. for Shaw, his 9th home run of the season, the only Red Sox run. Cecil has done a terrific job. He's not allowed a run over his last 21 innings, a span of 24 games. Goes back to June 21st, the last time he gave up a run against the Orioles at Rogers Center. Martin wanted that one.
Yeah, good pitches like that has gotten that 21 inning and 24 game streak that he hasn't allowed a run.
And that's the longest streak by a Toronto pitcher this season. 2-2 pitch to Holt. There it is. Russell Martin got that one. 2 up, 2 down for Cecil here in the 7th.
A couple of fastballs to Holt, who really likes to work the count. You throw a couple of fastballs early, and now you're going to put him on the defensive so you can drop this spike curve. You see he's got that finger right on top of that baseball, then spins it off that middle finger for the strikeout.
Blake Swihart is a switch hitter. He checks his swing. Swihart has struck out and lined out. He took a called third strike in the 3rd. Straight back. R.A. Dickey, allowing 1 run over 6 innings, has dropped his ERA to 4.01. What a great second half he's put together. Pete Walker and John Givens talking about their next move out of their bullpen, who they want up next. Curveball bounced out in front of home plate. Jackie Bradley Jr. has been held hitless so far, 0 for 2. Fred Cecil continues to roll. 3 up, 3 down with a couple of strikeouts. We'll go to the 8th. Big bats coming up for the Blue Jays. Jose Bautista, then Edwin Encarnacion and Troy Tulowitzki. It's a 1-1 game. Baseball partnership and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership. And what a game we've got. 1-1 as we head to the 8th here at Fenway Park. Only 7 hits in the ball game. The only home run coming off the bat of the rookie Travis Shaw. Blue Jays got their run in the first on a ground out by Edwin Encarnacion, and that's been the intent of the scoring.
2 singles and a double for the Blue Jays. They had a hit batter, a wild pitch, a stolen base, and a ground out for their run.
Pat mentioned that Jose Bautista had a 2-run single off Ramirez in yesterday's game. That was in the 8th inning. Little squibber out in front of home. Swihart out quickly, bounces it, and Bautista's safe. The catcher, Blake Swihart, handcuffed Shaw with the ball in the dirt, and the first baseman couldn't come up with it.
Right off the end of the bat for Bautista, and I was watching where the bat went. Watch where the bat goes and then where the catcher has to go. There's the bat out in front. He's got to step over the bat. I don't know if that messed with his timing on that, but he threw one right into the dirt. And the first batter is on for the Blue Jays.
Swihart looked like he stepped over the bat cleanly and just made a bad throw to first. That's kind of break the Blue Jays have to take advantage of. It's an error on the catcher for Swihart, his 3rd of the season. That hit him. Encarnacion gets hit by a pitch, and the Blue Jays with a couple of breaks here.
Yeah,
in the 8th.
Edwin right away said, no, I didn't get hit. He wanted to hit off of Ramirez. He just could not talk the home plate umpire Jim Reynolds into it, but that clearly hit him. You could hear it. One more time, sidearm fastball. And for the 3rd time tonight, a Blue Jay batter gets hit.
Just brushed his jersey. Encarnacion said, no.
I want to hit here.
I want to hit. I'm here in Fenway. Tulowitzki's been on base twice. He was hit by a pitch in the 4th, singled in the 6th. Interesting situation for Ramirez in this ball game now. He's got Tulowitzki at the plate. An error and a hit batter. Nobody out.
They've been knocking on the door all night. I mean, that's how it feels through the first 7.5 innings, that they've been knocking and knocking. They just can't kick that door in and come up with a big base hit.
Jays have stranded 7 base runners and gone 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position.
Jan Gibbons is pleading for a base hit right here. Outfield is deep in center and right.
Troy Tulowitzki has never hit a home run here at Fenway Park. This is his 5th career game in this ballpark.
Well, now's a perfect time for it, if you ask me. 2-1, maybe get the ball out over the plate and see if you can put one over the wall in left field.
Shoots one down the right side. That's going to slice out of play. Tulowitzki hit right off the end of the bat. Ramirez has a challenging delivery. His arm angle's a little high 3/4 arm angle.
And he throws hard. Strikeout pitches his slider.
Tulowitzki strikes out. See Tulowitzki encouraging Colabello after he struck out. Come up with a hit and looked like a changeup, something off speed, down and away. So Lovella will go to the bullpen once again. Junichi Tazawa will come on to face Chris Colabello. Interesting move by Lovella. Tazawa coming into the ball game. He makes his 60th appearance of the season. He's pitched 57 2/3 innings. And the curious part of it is the Blue Jays have always hit him hard.
Yeah, his ERA this year is 3.59, and you see he's got 54 strikeouts in those 57 innings. But against the Blue Jays in his career, for some reason, they have really hit him hard. A 3.65 average against Tazawa in his 24 innings, 26 games against Toronto.
He has given up 9 home runs to the Blue Jays in 26 games. The next highest total of home runs allowed is given up 4 to the Yankees. So the Blue Jays, they wear him out. Chris Colabello with runners at first and second. Upstairs. Tazawa, the 4th relief pitcher to work. Colabello bounces it wide of third. It's a 1-1 game. We're in the top of the 8th. Blue Jays threatening to score here. There's that splitter and a good one.
Yeah, that's his pitch. His fastball right over the top, splitter to end the at-bat. Tazawa has put up some pretty good numbers this year. He's tied for 16 in innings. We mentioned he's thrown 57 2/3 innings this season. There are the relievers for the Blue Jays getting ready.
Mark Lowe, the right-hander on the left side of the bullpen. Sanchez standing by. In the dirt. You ask, why are there 2 right-handed pitchers warming up? Well, if the Blue Jays don't score, it's going to be Lowe. But if they do score, then it'll be Sanchez.
Yeah, Blue Jays need to take the lead for John Gibbons to go to Aaron Sanchez in the 8th inning. He just got up and started throwing. Blue Jays got to get the ball in the air here. Can't get a ball on the ground.
Full count. Colabello. And then if he can reach Pilar. Colabello here at Fenway Park this season has 13 hits. Tazawa strikes him out.
Might have been ball 4. It looked like another tumbler. He was not going to challenge Chris Colabello there, 3-2 with a fastball. He's just been hurt too many times with that fastball, so he goes to the split. There it is, coming out of the hands in the tumbling action. It goes down. Might have been ball 4.
Kevin Pilar, 2 outs. First pitch strike. He gets ahead with the fastball.
Well, you know you're going to get a splitter. You're going to get one, so be ready for it.
Oh, he got a fastball, and Tazawa got away with one. Pilar in the hole, 0-2, 2 outs. Blue Jays now 0 for 11 with runners in scoring position.
Need a big hit. That's the one thing that has been missing tonight from this offense.
There goes Bautista. He breaks for third, and Carson moves up right behind him. Ball was in the dirt. Swihart blocked it, but Bautista was on his way, stealing third.
Splitter. Those splitters have been in the dirt all night long from Tazawa. And the Blue Jays take advantage of it with the stolen bases.
Second stolen base, second double steal of the night. They had one in the first inning. 2-2. Pilar steps out. Well, Bautista, he's very aware that Tazawa's going to throw that splitter. And if it's a ball and gets away, he's got to think about breaking for home. You can bet he's thinking about a ball in the dirt. Pilar's had 3 fastballs to hit in this at bat upstairs. He's hit Boston well all season long.
Blue Jays have hit some balls hard tonight, but right at the defense, and the Red Sox, to their credit, they've made some good plays tonight.
Line to the third baseman, another hard hit ball. but right at Sandoval. Tazawa gets out of the inning. The Blue Jays strand 2 more. They're 0 for 12 with runners in scoring position. Now time for a Blue Jays Central update. Here's Jamie Campbell and Greg Zahn.
You can do that today and every day after the Jays game on sportsnet.ca. And Buck, seeing that it is a 1-1 game and we're in the bottom of the 8th, I would think that play of the game is still going to happen for the Blue Jays.
I think you're right, Barry Davis. How about a 1-1 game here at Fenway and a 1-1 game in the Bronx at Yankee Stadium? Orioles and Yankees tied at 1-1. Jackie Bradley Jr. 0 for 2 so far. He's got an 8-game hit streak on the line. Cecil pours that fastball in there. Brett retired the side in order in the 7th. He got Sandoval, struck out Holt and Swihart. Boy, what a good ball game. Lots of good defense, and you got to tip your cap to the Red Sox bullpen. They've held the Blue Jays to 0 for 12 with runners in scoring position. The Jays have stranded 9.
They've hit the ball hard, but they've hit it right at the defenders, or players like Bogarts or Betts. Somebody comes up with a nice play. They turn the big double plays when they needed to. Blue Jays just haven't been able to catch a break, come up with that big hit.
The Blue Jays actually had a couple of breaks in the 8th inning and couldn't capitalize. Bautista reached on the air by the catcher, a little tapper out in front of home, and then Encarnacion got hit by a pitch. It was 1st and 2nd, nobody out. 3-2. Strike 3 call. Cecil strikes out Jackie Bradley Jr. So Cecil does a terrific job coming into this game. He retires all 4 batters he's faced. A couple, 3 strikeouts. He got Holt, Swihart, and struck out Jackie Bradley Jr. to start the 8th. Cecil will give way to Mark Lowe. Brett Cecil, inning and a third, 3 strikeouts. Now Mark Lowe will take over. This will be his 47th appearance of the season.
There are his numbers combined with Seattle and Toronto. Last worked on Sunday in that series finale against the Baltimore Orioles. Got an inning in, just gave up a double to Chris Davis, and that was it. Hard fastball, hard slider to get those strikeouts.
Mookie Betts goes after that first pitch. This is the 13th appearance for Lowe since joining the Blue Jays. Pitched a total of 10 innings coming into this game. That's 1 for 3. He extended his hit streak to 14 straight. He has a 16-game hit streak against the Blue Jays going back to last September. They haven't figured him out just yet. And he's got some power.
Yes, he does. He's got 13 home runs. Watch him dip that bat, but he can get it back into that spot. And he's very quick. Very quick bat. You think you could slip a fastball by him and he can pull those hands in and pull the ball. So Lowe throws a slider.
Too far outside with that breaking pitch. Betts came up last year as a 21-year-old and hit .291 in 189 at bats, and he's picked it up right where he left off last season. Lowe strikes him out. That's 4 straight strikeouts for the Blue Jays bullpen.
You mentioned that Blue Jays bullpen. It's been one of the best in all of baseball since the All-Star break. And Mark Lowe just adds to it. Look at this slider. As a hitter, you see it looks like a fastball, but it just dips underneath the bat.
Blue Jays bullpen ranked 5th in the American League in ERA. Dustin Pedroia taking all the way, takes a strike. The power arms in the bullpen has changed the makeup of this team dramatically. Ground ball. Donaldson gets a big hop, takes his time, in time. Mark Lowe closes out the Red Sox in the bottom of the 8th. Will go to the 9th. It's a 1-1 ball game.
Canada's official team shop for your Toronto Blue Jays, bringing together the largest selection of Blue Jays products anywhere. Visit us online at jshop.ca. Lots of Jays gear here tonight, including those folks we saw that came all the way from Edmonton, Alberta to see their Jays.
That's a long road trip, but they've been treated to a couple of good ball games. Red Sox won the opener. Blue Jays are tied here in the 9th. 1-1 game. New pitcher into the game is Robbie Ross Jr.
The left-hander has been in 45 games this year. 0-2 record, 393 earned run average, fastball slider. What you're going to get from Ross.
Torey Lovullo had a hunch about Junichi Tazawa, and it was a good one. Tazawa came in with runners at first and second. They stole third and second, respectively, a double steal, and then Tazawa struck out Colabello and got Kevin Pillar to line out. Cliff Pennington got the start at second base tonight. He's 0 for 3.
Torey Lovullo keeps going to his hottest relievers right now, trying to cool off the Blue Jays. Ross is another one. His last 14 games, hitters have only hit 188 against him. So Torey's playing his hot hands now.
Ground ball. Shaw goes wide of first, throws to first base in time to Ross covering the bag. One down. Russell Martin walked as a pinch hitter in the 7th. Stayed in the ball game. This is pennant race baseball at its best. September baseball. Blue Jays have been waiting a long time to play meaningful games in September, and you go to Fenway Park, and next stop will be Yankee Stadium. Doesn't get any more meaningful than this.
Yeah, and every pitch, in every play, everything is magnified and everything's important. Let's go all the way back early in this game when the Blue Jays had a leadoff double because they could not advance that runner. The long fly ball by Pennington would have scored him. I mean, you knew something like that was going to come back to be important later in the ball game.
Yeah, you have a tendency to think there are going to be a lot of runs scored here at Fenway Park. It's not always the case. Even the Blue Jays, the only run they have scored tonight came without benefit of a hit. Ben Revere got hit to start the game. Went to second on a wild pitch. Bautista walked with one out. Then they pulled off the double steal, and Encarnacion hit a ground ball to second. That's their only run. They have 1 run on 3 hits. The Red Sox have 1 run on 4 hits. They got a home run from the rookie Travis Shaw in the 2nd. That's been it. Martin strikes out. 2 outs. Let's check it with Jamie Campbell. Thank you very much, Jamie. And you think about the Yankees bullpen, they've been used a lot lately, and Jason Shreve into the game gives up the big home run to Chris Davis. This is Ezequiel Carrera, who came into the game as a defensive replacement. In the bottom of the 7th, smoke pinch hit for Revere, and Carrera came on defensively.
You can see why Ross has been so hot for Boston lately. That little slider is sharp and tight.
This is his first season with the Red Sox. He spent the first 3 years of his big league career with the Texas Rangers. He was a 2nd round pick of the Rangers in 2008. You saw Osuna and Sanchez down in the Blue Jays bullpen. 2-2, 2 outs. Hit hard, but right to Bogarts. Gets a nice hop. Robbie Ross Jr. 3 up, 3 down. The Blue Jays go quietly in their half of the night. We'll go to the bottom of the night. It'll be Bogarts, Ortiz, and Shaw against Aaron Sanchez. proud partner and official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
This ball game, the score is 1-1 thanks to this right here. Travis Shaw, first pitch, swinging against Dickey. That is back in the second inning. The only time the Red Sox have touched home plate. The last time a batter has touched home plate, we're 1-1. The drive of the game brought to you by Travis Shaw, who hit his 9th home run.
Aaron Sanchez into the ball game, his 31st appearance of the season. It's a 1-1 game, and Sanchez will deal with the middle of the order. Bogarts, Ortiz, and Travis Shaw.
Bring him in here in the bottom of the 9th inning to try to send this thing to extra innings. Last time Sanchez worked, that was 3 days ago against Baltimore. Threw an inning, gave up a hit, and nothing else.
First pitch off the plate. .97 on the corner, ball on the strike. Where the bullpens have been terrific, both sides. Breaking ball, Donaldson has it at third. In plenty of time. One now. Now for a preview of what's coming up on Sportsnet Central. Here's Ken Reed and Ivanka Osman. That's all coming up right after this ball game. David Ortiz shows bunt, takes it inside.
Go right ahead.
Yes, sir.
If you want to do that, go right ahead. He is looking out at Donaldson saying, I'm bunting, and Donaldson saying, go right ahead. I don't care. That beats the alternative, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what he really wants to do. 97, he's late on that high fastball. Foul.
98. It's a classic matchup right here. Power pitcher, power hitter.
It's a 1-1 game. David Ortiz against Aaron Sanchez.
I know it's exciting. I know it's the time of that year, but you got to stay within yourself if you're Aaron Sanchez. You don't want to overthrow anything. Just concentrate on making good pitches.
Ortiz 0 for 3 in this ball game. Against Sanchez, he is 2 for 5 in his career. Throw him a breaking ball. That'll put a little hesitation in his stroke.
Well, you certainly hope so. Sanchez has a good breaking ball.
Full count, 1 out. Ball 4. Went upstairs, Ortiz lays off. You got to believe they're going to pinch run for it. Got all kinds of players on their bench.
Rusney Castillo.
So Ortiz works Sanchez for the 1-out walk. Castillo played in the game yesterday. Ortiz is out of the ball game. Castillo can run. We saw that yesterday. Castillo is 3 for 3 in stolen base attempts. Excuse me, he's 3 for 5 in stolen base attempts. Been caught twice. Travis Shaw. First pitch strike, catches the outside corner.
No need to worry about that runner at first base. You just deliver quality pitches here and try and get a ground ball. Let Russell Martin, if he decides to go, throw him out.
Certainly want to make your pitches here. Trust your stuff.
When you start worrying about that guy over there, if he's going to run or not, all of a sudden you're falling behind a pretty good hitter.
Inside, 2-1. Shaw homered in the second, a 1-out home run, his 9th of the season. 8 of his 9 home runs have come right here at Fenway Park. There goes Castillo. Strike. Russell Martin's throw is a beauty. Oh, what a throw. Russell Martin has had a terrific season gunning down base runners, and they catch Castillo. It's a cold strike on Shaw. The best strike at second.
The best in the American League. That's what I mean. Worry about that hitter. If he decides to go, trust that Russell Martin is going to make a play, and he does once again. Comes out firing and throws a strike to second base to take that base runner off the base.
That's chopped off the home plate. Pennington throws, and what a stretch by Colabello. Chris Colabello with the stretch. The inning is over. Russell Martin throws out the base stealer Castillo, and then they're able to close it out. Good play by Pennington. It's bang bang at first. Good stretch by Colabello to end the inning. The umpires are in communication with New York. Fielding Colbreth is the crew chief, and the first base umpire Paul Schreiber, and they uphold the call. Colabello stretched, and then after he caught the ball, he loses contact with the bag, but it's academic. The inning is over, and we go to extra innings. 1-1 ball game. We're going to extras at Fenway. How about September baseball? Russell Martin entered the game as a pinch hitter in the 7th and made maybe the best play of the game defensively as he throws out the pinch runner Rusney Castillo. Russell has had his best season ever at throwing out base runners. He's so quick and accurate.
Red Sox elect to start the runner on a 3-1 count. It's a strike. Russell throws him out. That's 2 outs. And then Cliff Pennington gets into the act with this nice play and a great stretch by Colabello to end the inning off of Travis Shaw. And that's why we go to extra innings. Top of the 10th inning, Alexei Ogando will come in, and he will be the 6th reliever used by the Red Sox tonight. Ogando pitched in last night's ball game, had a 1-2-3 ninth inning. Jeff Rutledge is into the ball game, takes over for Dustin Pedroia at second.
Josh Donaldson with a mighty cut on the first pitch. Donaldson, he's 0 for 3. He walked in the 3rd. High fly ball to left. Holt is back at the wall, and this ball is off the top of the fence. That should be a home run. Donaldson hustling toward 3rd. He's in there with the slide, and he's safe. But they got to review that one. That hit right on top of the wall.
Everybody sees it. Everybody knows. Josh Donaldson. He looks up at the umpire and said, "Isn't that a home run?" John Gibbons is out, and here comes the umpires. They just go right to the video.
That was hit a mile high and came straight down. There's a ledge on top of the Green Monster. That fence is 37 feet high, and watch how this ball bounces off that ledge.
Right above the line. And back on to play. They're going to review this, and this is why they put this rule in right here on plays like that, especially in this ballpark right here. There's the bench. They think it's gone. They're calling home run.
Donaldson with another big hit. The ruling on the field is that it's a triple. Louis Rivera, the third base coach, immediately turned to the dugout and said, "We got to review this." Torey Lovullo, the manager of the Red Sox, is out to talk to Jim Reynolds. Fielding Colbreth and the third base umpire, Manny Gonzalez, on the headsets.
Well, the ball was hit so high by Donaldson that it looked like it almost came straight down on the top of the wall and bounced back into play. And luckily for the Blue Jays, he was hustling all the way, so he was safe. He was called safe at third base. Look how high this ball is, and watch it come straight down on top of that wall and then bounce back into play. But if it's over that line and it hits on top of that ledge there, that should be a home run.
The umpires have the decision, and fielding Colbreth will say third. Oh my. And now Jim Reynolds is going to tell Colbreth they want to review the play at third on the slide. That's why Torey Lovullo was out for the Red Sox, so they're going under the headset again. So now they call at third on Donaldson whether or not he was safe. He is safe on the field, so they're reviewing that play. So we've had 2 reviews of the same play. And now Donaldson is getting an explanation from Manny Gonzalez about why that wasn't a home run. But it hit the top of the fence. Now here's the play that the Red Sox are challenging. Donaldson appears to be safe. As he made contact with that left hand before the tag was applied, and Louis Rivera helping out the umpire.
Letting them know that he is safe, but you know, because it wasn't called a home run, Donaldson just kept running, and he did the right thing, running as hard as you can and make them stop you. Well, that thing must have got right off the corner of that ledge.
That's a good point, and the umpires reviewing the play. Here's the slide by Donaldson. He extends that right hand out and appeared to get the hand on the base before the tag was applied. The home plate umpire, Jim Reynolds, rotated down from home plate to third to make that call. This is the first time I've ever seen this where we've had challenges of 2 calls on the same play.
That's 3 challenges over the last 2 batters.
Exactly. The Colabello challenge at first as well.
To end the bottom of the 9th inning, and Donaldson leads off with what is now a triple. And now Torey Lovullo wants to know if he was safe. It certainly looked like he was safe on that replay.
Now, Donaldson did exactly the right thing, and you're right. When you're here in Fenway Park and you hit a ball toward the Green Monster, you're always told, run. Don't let the flight of the ball dictate your effort. You have to run. You don't know how it's going to react off that Green Monster. You just keep running until the play stops you. But you talk about an exciting game. Now the umpires have the review of this play, and safe is the call. The call on the field stands up. It is upheld by the review, so Donaldson has a leadoff triple here in the 10th, his second triple of the season. Now, we're not sure why Dustin Pedroia was taken out of this game, but Jeff Rutledge is at second base. The infield is drawn in. Nobody out. Bautista facing Ogando. Inside with the fastball.
And this should be to Jose's liking right here. Ogando likes to heat you up with that fastball. And the harder, the better, I think, for Jose.
Jose hitting .250 against Ogando. He's 3 for 12 against the big right-hander. The Blue Jays to this point 0 for 12 with runners in scoring position. Fly ball, center field, not that deep. Donaldson's tagging at third. Betts has got a strong arm, and he's going to hold Donaldson. The ball wasn't hit that deep, and you can't take a gamble with nobody out.
He took a gamble against the second baseman, if you remember that, back at Rogers Center, Kipnis, but his momentum was going away from home plate. Mookie Betts does it perfectly. Gets behind it, gets the momentum coming home, and now Josh is going to read this throw, and it's a good throw. One hop right to the catcher. And now with that short fly ball, they got some options now. They could walk Encarnacion now if they choose.
They almost throw one away. Encarnacion will be issued the free pass. Dustin Pedroia is out of the game, but he's right there with Brian Butterfield to help the infield defense with Rutledge at second. So they're going to walk Encarnacion. The Blue Jays have such a deep lineup. They don't have many intentional walks. This is just the 9th intentional walk of the season issued to the Blue Jays.
But it makes a lot of sense. You got to set up for the double play so you can get out of this inning.
Justin Smoke is explaining to Brooke Jacoby and Ryan Goins where that Donaldson ball hit. And it hit right on the edge of the ledge. It didn't hit on top of the ledge. So Encarnacion is given the intentional walk. For comparison's sake, the Blue Jays now have 9 intentional walks. David Ortiz himself has 13. So they pass the baton to Troy Tulowitzki.
Here's Deanna Navarro right there. His bat could come into play tonight at some point.
Foul ball. Donaldson broke from third just in case. That was not a foul ball, but it foul chipped off the catcher's glove.
Boy, he's always in the game. He is always thinking.
We're in the 10th. It's a 1-1 game. Ground ball, base hit. Donaldson's in to score. Tulowitzki has given the Blue Jays a 2-1 lead. His 16th RBI since coming to the Blue Jays, his 69th of the season. The big RBI by Tulowitzki.
Tulowitzki, I told you he's been having some better at-bats. He has been hitting the ball hard, and he comes through for the Blue Jays with a clutch hit. Dalton Pompey, now that Encarnacion gets in the scoring position, will take up for Edwin and pinch run for him.
The Orioles have beaten the Yankees in New York 2-1, and the Blue Jays have taken the lead here in Boston 2-1. Dalton Pompey pinch running for Encarnacion at second. There's one out. Tulowitzki's at first. It's first and second, one out for Colabello.
Timeout called by Xander Bogaerts, the shortstop. He wants to get some direction from the bench on where to play. Pompey came into the game last time we saw him, had a couple of stolen bases, 2 big stolen bases. I bet the Red Sox have done their scouting on that.
Ogando has a long release from the set position. Takes him a while to unload it. Osuna is ready in the Blue Jays bullpen. Following the strike to Colabello. Chris doubled in the second. Has struck out, walked, and struck out. He is 1 for 3. Chase the pitch down and away. It's now 1-2.
Boy, Ogando's actually watching Pompey, the runner at second base, when he goes into his delivery to home plate. He's in the stretch position, starts to go home, keeps his eye on Pompey, and then delivers the pitch. Red Sox have their eye on the runner at second.
Pompey broke. Ball's up the middle, off the glove of Bogaerts. Here comes Pompey. He's going to score. Tulowitzki goes to third. And Colabello drives in a second run here in the 10th.
You know, we got a shot right there of Xander Bogaerts looking into the dugout, asking where they want to play against Colabello. Should I play him to pull, or should I play him at double play depth? If he plays him at double play depth, that's double play, but they were playing him to pull. Just enough for Chris to get this fastball back through the middle. It deflects off of Bogaerts, and the Blue Jays get a big insurance run.
Pompey broke, and then once the ball is off the glove of Bogaerts, he scores easily. Tulowitzki goes first to third. Still just one out. 2 runs in here in the 10th.
How about another big hit for Chris Colabello? That's got to be a half a dozen.
Now they call him for the balk. He didn't stop. Another run comes in. Tulowitzki scores. The wheels have come off for Boston here in the 10th. That's the second balk that the Red Sox have committed tonight.
It almost looked like it was 2 stops where he came set and then dropped it again and then went. Blue Jays will take it 4-1.
Way outside. Colabello goes to third. That'll bring the infield in once again. Carl Willis, the pitching coach, out to try to help Ogando regroup. A leadoff triple by Donaldson. Bautista then flying out to center. They walked Encarnacion intentionally. Tulowitzki gave the Blue Jays the lead with a single to left. Colabello single to center to drive in the second run, and then the balk allowed Tulowitzki to score. Heath Hembree loosening up for Boston.
Blue Jays have broken through here on 3 hits, an intentional walk. The infield is not in.
Now they're going to
now
come
they're
in.
starting to come in.
They've got to come in here. Another ball down and away. 2-0 to Pilar. Now 2-1. You couldn't squeeze another Blue Jay on the top step, could you? Pilar hits it to left. Colabello's tagging. Holt sets up. Colabello's going to break for home. Here's the throw. It's a good one, but he loses the ball. Swihart had the ball, tagged Colabello, but it popped out of his glove. Colabello is safe. Pilar picks up an RBI.
He would have been out if Swihart holds on to the baseball, but the Blue Jay fans are loving that as they score their 4th run here in the 10th inning. Short fly ball to left field, and this is when you can chance it right here. You're hoping for a bad throw or exactly what happened, a dropped ball. Holt comes up with a good throw. He's got 1 outfield assist. He thought he has 2, but when Swihart went to tag Colabello, the ball pops out, and the Blue Jays have another run.
Cliff Pennington batting with nobody on and 2 outs.
The throw clearly beats him, and he tags him, but then hits the dirt. Watch the glove go down, hit the dirt, pop open, and the ball pops out.
A 4-run 10th inning. The Blue Jays had a break in the first inning. They scored without the benefit of a hit in the first inning. In this inning, an intentional walk, a balk, sac fly. A lot went in their favor here in the 10th, but you got to tip your cap to Tulowitzki and Colabello coming up with big base hits. And then Kevin Pilar with a sacrifice fly.
Yeah, not being satisfied with just a couple of runs. They get the hit by Tulowitzki, Colabello, and then the Red Sox gave him a run with a balk and a wild pitch. That wild pitch got that runner to the third base where he could score on that short sacrifice fly.
1-2 to Cliff Pennington. Blue Jays have scored 5 runs on 6 hits. Pennington strikes out. That ends the top half of the 10th for the Blue Jays. Break loose for 4 runs. Roberto Osuna coming into the ball game. It's not a save situation, but he wants to punctuate this 10th inning. A 5-1 lead here going to the bottom of the 10th, and Roberto Osuna will come on. Aaron Sanchez got 3 outs in the 9th, aided by a terrific throw from Russell Martin to throw out the pinch runner Rusney Castillo. 4 runs in the 10th. Josh Donaldson keyed it with a leadoff triple.
And now you get Osuna up. When the Blue Jays took the lead, he's hot, he's ready to go. You got to bring him in. I don't care if it's a save situation. You got to win this ball game. So Osuna's in, and he will face Sandoval, Holt, and Swihart.
6, 7, and 8 in the Red Sox batting order. They've gone 1 for 9 so far in this game. Red Sox have just 4 hits in the ball game. And another terrific effort by the Blue Jays bullpen.
Cecil and Lowe, Sanchez, and now Osuna trying to finish it off.
Off the end of the bat, Donaldson at third makes the throw. Plenty of time. 1 down. Holt, the left fielder, grounded out twice and struck out. There were lots of questions about Roberto Osuna, a 20-year-old who'd never pitched above A ball. He hasn't been fazed by the pennant race.
Yeah, we hear that now as we get deep into the season. Writers from other teams and scouts from other teams. Can this guy do it? Well, what do you think? We've been watching him all season long. I don't see why not.
That one of the greatest responses I've heard all season long in that regard. Hitters don't ask to see your birth certificate.
Yeah, they're taking a look at the stuff that you have.
Ground ball. Pennington quickly to first. Red Sox down to their final out. Catcher Blake Swihart, who struck out twice tonight. One and two.
What a ball game.
Got it. A changeup for the final out of the game. The Blue Jays pour onto the field and they win an extra inning game. They improve to 7-5 in extra innings and have taken an 8-7 lead over the Red Sox in their season series.
What an emotional game, I think, for the Blue Jays. They were knocking on the door, it seemed like, all night long until that last inning where they finally knocked through that door, thanks to Troy Tulowitzki and Chris Colabello. But tonight they weren't clutch early on with their hitting, but they certainly were clutch defensively as they win a very tough ball game.
R.A. Dickey set the tone with another good start, then the bullpen took it from there. The Blue Jays have